Tokyo is one of my favorite places to visit, but it can get pretty expensive, so here's how to spend your ideal 2 days in Tokyo on a budget. So Tokyo is the biggest city in the whole world, so there's something for everyone. But my personal favorite thing to do right when I wake up is to grab a hot drink and people watch. So Tokyo has a really great coffee shop scene, but the green tea here is really next level. So I love grabbing a matcha to wake up, and it's made to taste really strong in Japan. So it has nothing to see with what you can find at home. It's way stronger and really wakes you up. Prices depend quite a lot on the places you go to, obviously, but I spent around 500 yen, which is around $3 at my local tea shop for a matcha. And in terms of food, I have so much to tell you, and I'll tell you all about it and how much it costs in a bit. And by the way, all of these are the actual prices I paid in Tokyo because I track all my spending in an app when I travel. So in Japan, people don't usually walk around with a hot drink like you can see in the US. So you'll really want to sit down and enjoy your drink, people watch a bit, and get a feel for the vibe of the neighborhood you're in. I really enjoy seeing Tokyo in the morning. It's such a relaxed atmosphere for such a big city. One great way to ease into the day, which is also free, is to see one of the many beautiful parks Tokyo has to offer. A few of my favorites are Yoyogi Park, which is in the middle of Shibuya, and also the East Gardens of the Imperial Palace, which are the gardens attached to the house of the emperor. These are super cool if you're also interested in culture and history. And there's so many different parks and gardens all around the city, and as you can imagine, they're really beautiful and super well taken care of, and they have a super cool relaxing vibe, which is perfect for the morning. Also, depending on when you come to Japan, you might even see the cherry blossom flowers, which are super beautiful and everywhere in those parks. Another really cool cultural thing that's free are the shrines. So you've probably seen a few of them in your guides, and they're basically places of worship for the Shinto religion. There's so many well-known ones around the city, but you'll also find ones in your neighborhood. For example, last time we were in Tokyo, just walking around, I fell upon this really beautiful shrine that was over a hill and that you access through these torii gates that are the red gates you probably expect in Kyoto, and it was so peaceful and beautiful and had a perfect relaxing atmosphere. But especially if you're going to Kyoto later, I recommend you don't spend the full day on these, because for me, what makes Tokyo so unique is the local life. You see, I feel Tokyo is a city that needs to be lived and experienced rather than just visited. And speaking of experiences, there's a lot of very unique experiences you can only experience in Japan. Here are a few of my favorites. There's a bunch of cool and crazy robots all around Japan. From robot baristas that make your coffee for you with a robotic arm, to the really cool robot hotel we went to where the people greeting you at the front desk are actually robots. But what I want to tell you about is my favorite robot experience to date. So this time when we were in Japan, we went to this really cool robot cafe where the robots are actually operated by human beings with disabilities who couldn't work at a cafe otherwise. So it's really cool because thanks to the robot, they can actually see you, wave at you, move around the room, and you can also have a chat with them. This was such a sweet experience, and for sure my favorite robot experience of all time, because you can really see how technology can be used for good and how these robots are actually just a way of connecting with other people. Like, it's super cool that this really cute robot is actually operated by a real human being. So this place is called Dawn Avatar Cafe, and their drinks are pretty well priced at around 500 yens, which is around $3. My second favorite unique Japanese experience is, of course, getting all the snacks I can at Donki. So I've talked about it before. Donki is a massive supermarket with a bunch of different snacks from Japan, like these massive Kit Kat bars, bunch of green tea poke, and countless aisles of candy, snacks, and other stuff you can't even imagine. It's also one of my favorite places to shop for gifts to bring back home because it's pretty cheap and there's literally everything you can think of. They also have vending machines, which are a staple of Japan, and another super cool Japanese thing you have to try. So Japan has all kind of weird and original vending machines, and I've read somewhere there's one vending machine for every 23 people, so that's a lot of them. You can find anything there, from cake to plush toys to even wedding rings, but the main ones you'll use are either drinks that you can basically find anywhere in Japan, or food like ramen or soba noodles. And these are also obviously pretty good if you're on a budget because they're cheap unless you're going for the wedding ring vending machine. Then we also have the very unique photo booths of Japan, which which are called purikura, which is kind of a cool thing to do with friends, and you get a very unique and filtered photo of yourself, like this one. Then a lot of people who go to Japan want to try the animal cafes. On our side, we went to this dog cafe, which was also attached to a shelter where you can actually adopt the dogs, so it was pretty cool. And you also absolutely need to experience an izakaya, which is a Japanese pub. So obviously you want to go to this at night, and in a minute I'll be telling you about which neighborhood to go to. But the izakaya is basically a big Japanese pub that has a very unique and special vibe. And there you can find big groups of friends and colleagues having drinks, and a very unique and special Japanese experience. So here you'll usually drink sake, which is a Japanese rice alcohol, and have a bunch of little plates of greasy foods to share, like yakitori and other fried foods. Everything is usually made on site, and I really like the vibe. Usually they have these like little cool lanterns and are sometimes in a small tiny back alleyway that makes for a very unique Japanese feel. Okay, so before I tell you all about the hotels, the neighborhoods, and how much everything costs, I want to tell you about my absolute favorite topic, which is the food. Food in Tokyo is so good and super cheap if you compare it to other big cities around the world like Paris or New York. The first time we were in Japan, we had the coolest Michelin-starred meal experience. We went to this tiny Michelin-starred restaurant that was usually super expensive at night, like we're talking $200, but that was $15 at lunch. So the concept of this restaurant was that they only cooked different types of sardines. Yes, that sounds a bit weird, but it was really good. They only had like 4 choices on the menu, and we tried a few of these. But even normal restaurants are usually pretty cheap and super good. Here are a few of my favorite foods that are way better in Japan than the Japanese food you can find at home. So sushi is obviously very high on the list. Whether it's cheap conveyor belt sushi or something a bit fancier, it's really worth it. The fish is so much fresher, the rice is delicious. I feel very strongly about that. Then we obviously have ramen. There's so many ramen restaurants all around Tokyo, and also soba noodles, which are the buckwheat noodles, which are sometimes served cold and super delicious. A few of my other cheap meal favorites are the Japanese curry, so delicious, and obviously, as I was telling you, all the izakaya food, so the skewers and that type of stuff. If during your trip you're a bit tired of going out to restaurants and you want to just eat at home, you should absolutely go to a convenience store. I've talked about it before on the channel. There's a whole video dedicated to it, but convenience stores in Japan are just so good. For around $5 you can have a complete and delicious meal, and they have like so many unique things that you will never get bored. My favorite is 7-Eleven. There's for sure at least 5 different 7-Elevens around you, so I really recommend you try one. Overall, unless you want to try a specific restaurant, you don't really need to do too much research beforehand. To find a good restaurant in your neighborhood, you can just check out where the locals go and where there's a big line of locals. And speaking of neighborhoods, as I've said so many times during this video, Tokyo is the biggest city in the whole world, so the neighborhoods are pretty big. Like, it can be an hour walk between one side of the neighborhood to the other. So choosing where to stay and how to organize your time between neighborhoods is pretty important. So here is a very basic explanation of a few main neighborhoods. So the first time we were in Tokyo, we stayed in the Shinjuku neighborhood. Usually this is a neighborhood that's associated with a lot of nightlife and a bunch of bars, but we actually ended up in the business district of that neighborhood, so it was pretty quiet yet super close to the action. Obviously, if you're planning a trip to Tokyo, you've probably heard of Shibuya. In this neighborhood, we went out a lot to dinner in the tiny alleyways. There's also the Love Hotel Hill, which we went to for Bobby's video, and a bunch of nightlife. A lot of locals also seem to hang out there. Last time we were in Tokyo, we found an amazing deal on a hotel in Akasaka, which is kind of a fancy business neighborhood, which was actually really nice because it's super central and we could walk to a lot of places. And then a few others you can keep in mind are Harajuku, which is known for being a great place for shopping and especially thrift shopping. And then there's Akihabara, which is where you can find a bunch of electronics and different merch from different anime characters. What I recommend you do here with the neighborhoods is that you leave plenty of time to explore. Tokyo is just so big that I feel you cannot just reduce it to the main neighborhoods. Like, take some time to walk around and really feel the vibe for the specific neighborhood you're in, because you're guaranteed to find stuff that's not in the guides, that's not on the internet, but that's super cool. And by the way, Tokyo is very walkable and super safe, but it's just so big that you might want to move around by public transport. The Tokyo Metro is really the way to go. It's actually quite an enjoyable experience. It's super clean, super quiet, it runs smoothly, and you can buy different types of have passes, which cost around $8 for 48 hours. One thing to be super careful of is that the metro closes quite early at around 12. If you're going out at night, really be careful because the taxis are so expensive. Most people who actually live in Tokyo seem to keep that in mind, and you'll see people running away at around 12 trying to catch the last metro home to avoid a very expensive taxi ride. A really important thing I want you to keep in mind during your 48 hours in Tokyo is how to choose your hotel. Your hotel will be one of the biggest expenses you'll have during your stay in Tokyo. If you're traveling alone or just want to enjoy the experience, I really recommend trying a capsule hotel for a few nights. These are super nice and super quiet in Japan, and they can be a great way to save a bit of money. I've seen some capsule hotel prices as low as around $10 to $15 a night per person, so it's usually a pretty good deal. If you're someone who needs a tiny bit more space, you can check out the hotels as well, and I found that we usually have paid between $70 and $80 a night for 2 people. This is a pretty average price, although you can find much cheaper and more expensive as well, depending on what you're looking for in terms of comfort. I feel hotels in Tokyo tend to be a pretty good value for money, like you get quite a lot for that price. In our last hotel we had the onsen, which is the Japanese spa, and remember that your hotel can also be an experience, like you can stay in these really cool Japanese tatami rooms or even at a robo hotel. So just have fun picking ones because hotels in Tokyo are really cool. So spending 48 hours in Tokyo on a budget is totally doable. It's not that expensive if you do a little bit of research. On my side, that's all I have to say for now, so thank you for watching until the end, and I'll see you next time.